The following podcast, iDesign Lab, is an SW Group production in association with 5 Star and TW Interiors. This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. iDesign Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, innovators, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. And join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. Today, we have a very special guest who's been illuminating the world of design, quite literally, for nearly 5 decades. From his beginnings as a teenager working at his parents' lighting showroom in Sarasota, Florida, purchased from none other than Pee Wee Herman's dad, Keith Eichenblatt has been a pioneer in lighting and home decor. Keith's journey spans from designing stunning recessed lighting plans to representing some of the top brands in lighting, furniture, and accessories. His passion for design led him to establish his own import company, traveling the globe to discover unique pieces that inspire. Whether he's helping designers shine like superstars or bringing new trends to light, Keith's expertise and story are nothing short of illuminating. Get ready for a bright conversation as we welcome Keith Eichenblatt to the iDesign Lab.
Today, we look forward to welcoming Keith Eichenblatt to the iDesign Lab podcast. Keith has a very colorful and illuminating life in the design industry, and we're excited to welcome him here and hear about how he has designed and shaped a career in this industry. So
Thank you.
Welcome, Keith.
Thank you very much.
I guess our first question is, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I grew up in this industry, and
So it's a family business.
a family business, and we moved down from Jersey, and we wound up buying our lighting store from Pee Wee Herman's dad.
That's where he came in.
Wait.
Right.
Pee Wee Herman,
Pee
TV
Wee's
Pee Wee Herman.
Playhouse.
TV Pee Wee Herman, yeah.
Really?
And where was that?
In Sarasota.
In Sarasota, okay.
Yeah. And I loved it because it was always, my dad, I have 6 other brothers and sisters, and it's,
Wow.
Dad would always say, it's a family business. And because, we're from New Jersey and we communicate with sarcasm, I go, well, where's the rest of the family? It's just you and me. Where's everybody else?
Right.
But it was a great learning curve, and it was a great
So was
business.
the store known as the Pee Wee Herman, like Dad's store?
No. Pee Wee obviously grew up in Sarasota, and he was known because he grew up there, and Ringling and Barnum and Bailey resorts there and stuff like that. But I would say the real hit of the show was his dad.
So he had a great personality.
Yeah.
He drove people in and built his brand probably that way.
Yeah, and he was just as much of a character as Pee Wee, but I never had the opportunity to meet him, but to hear some of the stories from his mom and dad, oh my gosh, it's absolutely hysterical.
So your family takes over the store?
So the family takes over the store, and
it was a lighting store.
Lighting
just
store.
Like your local.
Chandeliers,
Okay.
table lamps. One of the lamps lines that we mentioned, the natural light lamps.
Right.
Back in that day,
They
we're
were
talking about
there.
like 1976.
Okay, the year I was born. Yeah.
It's kind of cool where you're working in a showroom as a kid, and next thing you know, some decades later, you're also the rep now for the same lines that you were.
Wow. Yeah,
previously.
yeah.
It's
So
like
that
full
was-
circle.
Yeah, so that was really, really fun.
So you guys moved from New Jersey to Sarasota.
Right.
How did that happen? Like
Retiring.
that's a big
or-
change
Well,
from one part of the country to the other.
if you had 7 kids and you had to travel in the snow back and forth to New York to work, your health would also go crazy.
Yeah.
So
that was the motivation.
that was the reason why we moved down.
So you worked in the store, through high school, college, or?
Well, through high school, and my dad, again, this is a family business.
But it was you and your dad.
But where's the family?
Right.
So when it came down to it, is that I mean, I didn't want to work there, but I had to help out and stuff
Right,
like that. That's
right.
what you do, right?
Right.
And so he goes, yeah, I play high school sports. He says, well, if you're in junior varsity, you got to come to work. I'm sorry, you got to come to work. If you, I was on a wrestling team. If you wrestled varsity,
All right,
well, then
then.
you don't have to come in.
So it was always
I did very well in wrestling. Yes,
Did ya?
I
It
did
was a
very
way of
well.
motivating. You would put in the hard work one way or the other.
Right.
I love that.
But learned a lot of disciplines, and he was a fantastic teacher, and really got to know the industry from many perspectives, rather than just being a rep.
Right.
Or, where I am today.
Right.
You
Because
were on the sales side.
I was on the sales side. I was on the buying side.
Yeah. What did that look like, the buying side for your dad, like coming into an industry that he wasn't working in before, or was he?
He was a textile chemist.
Okay. Oh my
So
gosh.
it was totally different. But the thing that made him great was he understood that although he had his opinion and he was the final word, he got his salespeople involved. He got, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And back in the days of catalogs,
I know.
okay, we would travel the markets, and here I am, 14, just like, traveling with the bag, acting like, junior buyer.
Right.
Right.
Probably had that on your tag, right?
Right. Actually, my name wasn't Keith. It was Marvin Eichenblatt's son, Keith. It was a long name. So,
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to take the transition from working in the store and facilitating a life in
As a rep.
repping?
so what happened was I decided that you can call it growth.
Right.
Okay, just normal
Yeah.
growth. Okay, and that if I'm going to see the world from my perspectives and my optics, I've got to do something different. Okay, and so I quit working for my dad, and I went to another lighting showroom from Sarasota over to the Daytona Beach area, and worked there. And then an opportunity came open. He says, Keith, well, do you want to be a rep? I said, sure, why not? Let me do something a little bit different. And it was always weighing things back and forth and overanalyzing stuff. And I said, you know what, if I don't do it now, the opportunity will never come again.
Right.
So from that point on, I just said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I wasn't making any money there. Well, I can make no money out of here too.
Right.
So
So what did you start repping? What was your first line of product, or?
well, it was still lighting.
Still lighting,
It was
okay.
always lighting, and it's been a very, very good industry for me. I made a very good life for it.
So when you say it's a good industry, what do you mean by that?
Well, for one thing, it put a lot of coin in my pocket.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so that so it wasn't. I didn't look at it as a job. Never looked at it as a job.
Which is-
always
Well,
looked at it as a career.
That's
Right.
a beautiful way to look at it.
And
So you're enjoying what you're doing then?
oh gosh, meeting people, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And then I grew the different lines that I decided to rep. I also decided on working on different channels of distribution. And then it kind of came to the point of people who I wanted to call on rather than this and that.
So were you repping mainly in Florida? Did you go outside of Florida? How big? of a
Only Florida.
Only
So you
Florida.
stayed in Florida.
So
Yeah.
you're focused.
And how did you transition from being obviously going to a place to work every day, the lighting store, to transitioning into kind of being your own boss?
So,
Did they ever explain it to you that way?
well, it in a way, you said something that I was just telling a story about the other day. My brother goes to me, goes, everything that you do is on an individual basis rather than a lot more people. Like, although I worked in a store and the store had 4 or 5 people, but going back to sports, it was always like wrestling or tennis or something like that where it was a single sport, okay? And then even like, my job, I'm in my car by myself,
Yeah. You're counting on you.
Right. So that was not that was an easy transition. although it gets lonely out there, you know.
Does it?
When you're driving along, you're not making any sales. You're a truck driver. You're not. Well, okay.
But when you're starting out and you get this position and you're now a rep for a lighting company,
Right.
are they telling you where to go? Are they giving you a list of, like, here's all your accounts that you need to go call upon and sell? Or is that all up to you to find new accounts or find the accounts? Or
Well, a lot of it is like it will provide an account list, but you still have to go out there and develop the
maintain
territory
and service those accounts too.
Right.
One thing I find in these podcasts too, that when we're talking to people in your position, that the way the industry kind of shifted too, where back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people were mainly calling on retail,
Right.
where now the design industry has such a huge component of that as well.
Well, there's this other thing called the internet. You may
Yeah,
have heard
I
about
know,
something like
I
that.
know.
And one of the lines I used to represent is called Murray Feist Lighting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I consider that an A line, and not only
Yes.
that.
I'm not familiar with it. What's unique?
So
what's
is
different about it?
it's still around?
It got absorbed by another
another company.
but Mr. Murray Feist, one of the things that he had said is that with the internet coming out, it basically leveled the playing field for a lot of people. Okay, so where before it was like, oh well, you're going to have this one store is going to carry this line, another giving them like an exclusive or something like
Right.
that. Now it's like your competitor isn't the next lighting store. It was Denny's, because they basically took pictures. They went over to Denny's and said, I'll order a hamburger and also see
I'll go
where else can I
shopping for lighting.
right, where else can I buy this, or what kind of pricing can I can I get it at? So
Does that help you or hinder you in terms of being more successful or selling more?
well, if I don't have access to the commissions that a internet company has. Okay, a lot of manufacturers hold that as a house account.
Right, right.
So if they go to a store and they say, "Oh, I like this," and they go buy it elsewhere, then the store loses, I lose,
Right,
and such like that.
right. So the lines, you represent a number of different lines.
Mhm.
Do all of those lines also allow others to sell it on the internet? Or or a lot of them kind of keeping it more exclusive to the designers and to the stores?
The majority of a lot of the lines today will sell online, and you can't blame them either. Okay, the number of lighting stores is, my gosh, I don't know how to put the number
Yeah.
together, but more than 50% from when I started.
Wow.
Okay, and then you have other manufacturers who are getting bigger and bigger, and the smaller ones are kind of the owners are getting older, and there's no succession plan, and
Which is so crazy to think about, all those big names through the years.
oh my gosh.
I mean,
But the other point that you brought up that I thought was interesting was, okay, so we're selling to retail stores now, right? Now, again, the internet is another huge channel, but the other one is the designer base. In
Right.
fact, when you saw me sitting there in the parking lot, I was coaching another sales rep
I love
about,
that.
if you don't recognize the designer, you're behind the game. You're behind the
Right.
game, because if you ever got an account or an attendee list from places like High Point, you would see that the number of designers on that list are by far the majority of names that have registered for the show.
Right.
So
there's a good correlation between who is kind of, well, I feel like designers are constantly trying to find, be in the know of what's new, what's being represented right now. And, it's not as easy to go, like we were spoiled in South Florida with Dakota and the
Right.
Design Center and the resources.
right.
But that has since shifted also, and it's there. Even though there's still great resources, even now Palm Beach is growing its own little designer hub. But at the end of the day, the best place to see anything and everything is at market and through our reps, who we do count on and rely on in the
Right.
industry too.
The High Point show, I was at a little meeting, whatever you call it, and I don't remember the lady's name, but she was one of the first people who started either the show or a group or whatever. But the thing was, she says that back in the day when it first started, you had to be retail.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a designer, sorry, you can't, this isn't for you. You have to buy through distribution.
Wow.
Now, and now it's like, as I mentioned, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different game.
Yeah, we keep hearing, and people that we talk to, that individuals who are like yourself, reps or repping brands and so forth,
Right.
that the designer side is so important to their business.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, like we're hearing and seeing that some of these retailers are disappearing.
I find that's so good. If I may mention names,
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
sure.
course.
Yeah.
You can take a lot of these furniture companies, like Bears Furniture is doing a great job.
Right.
Scan Design's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Clive Daniel Home is doing a great job. Okay, because they're big enough and they hire enough people to do this. Now, what do they have in there? They have salespeople, but they also have designers in there.
Right.
So they're really doing a great job with bringing it better to the people. Okay, the smaller ones, the smaller accounts and stuff like that, the mom and pops, it's harder to get that going because
They don't have
it's
the designer component.
it's, it's the two of them who are selling it.
I know
who are selling it
that's
like
kind
that.
of always been my thing too. Of like, you don't want a salesperson helping you decorate your house,
Right.
So I do understand that design component being, a pivotal situation.
Mm-hmm.
So as you have this career spanning, now we've mentioned a few decades in this industry, what do you think is the most important component to date?
The most important component,
Or exciting component? Like, is it the growth of the internet? Is it the, the design business, or of saying the shows, or the relationship?
So, gosh, the part that I would say that makes my job so exciting is that it's very fluid. Okay, nothing is the same, and one of the things I get the biggest kick out of is everybody is putting out great product.
Right.
I mean, my gosh, you go to
true.
You go to market
It's
and it's
so
like
true.
you think, oh, well, this guy's it's a great brand or whatever. Yeah, but the smaller guy, the smaller manufacturer, you might be able to find the same exact thing, maybe a different twist, maybe a different element that's off of it, hits a different price point or something like that. But nothing about this industry is boring, because I just find that everyone's coming out with great product.
Right.
Constantly evolving.
It's constantly, and as far as bringing back, as a design into my own agency is, I'm hiring people to do different aspects of the job that are different than I used to do before, like more on email blasts. I make up my own, literature to hand out and such like that. I find that manufacturers, they don't print catalogs anymore.
Right.
But if a rep comes by and they don't have a catalog, well,
So it's all internet. That's the catalog.
Yeah, well, what you need to do is go onto the internet, and it's like, yeah, but then as soon as you leave, then
you forget.
It's out of.
So what are some of those ideas that people in the rep industry or the rep world, how do you trigger like designers to recommend? Because I even myself, somebody will pop in, I might be out
Right.
at a meeting and they leave some things, and I'm like, oh my God, these are all gorgeous.
Right.
But what is a good trigger to remember? Like, oh, I gotta remember
So-
that
so,
when it gets put back on the shelf. Those
I-
email blasts, I guess.
Well, the email blast, but I got complimented on by another manufacturer saying like, I'm branding myself
Right. We have a
rather than trying to brand the
brand,
manufacturer,
yeah.
because what's going to happen is one day I may lose the line, they may close, they may get another rep or whatever, But it's like, my gosh, I got to go to Keith Eichenblatt for this, resource for a table lamp,
True.
a mirror, a light, or something like that.
Well, you're so closer to those items because you're seeing them from the manufacturers. Like from a designer, you're a great resource to
Totally. Like even the
bounce off
email
of.
blast could just simply be photos from market. I mean, to be able to see them in different lights. I mean, I refer to things all the time like that.
Yeah, but the other thing is that, so what I leave behind is that I'll leave behind a postcard. I'll leave, and it'll have a picture of me on it. In those suits that I was telling you about,
right.
and but you got to make something memorable. You got to grab the attention and the such, in order to be memorable, because there's a lot of reps out there.
Correct.
There's a lot of reps out there, and sometimes the rep makes the line, and sometimes the line makes the rep.
Right.
So
But you stand out, and you just said because of the way in which you
Present
dress, the way in
yourself.
which you present yourself. Let's talk about that for a little.
How did that evolve? Like to be able to set yourself apart?
Well, when I'm off, I'm in front of the TV just relaxing.
Right.
My wife one time came in and goes, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm watching TV." She goes, "Well, how about turning on the TV then?" Okay. The whole idea was that I'm just zoning out. Okay. I'm just I'm on. So as mentioned before, I take being a rep as a career. So much like a doctor or anybody else, they're always going to go back and try to learn more and learn more and learn more.
So I look at it differently. When in our conversation before we started the podcast today, and we were talking a little about this, we were talking about acting and so forth, because you've done some acting, and I kind of think about it from your standpoint and seeing you at market and whatnot, that you're a performer. It's like Elvis getting on stage. It's like you've got your, I don't want to call it costume, but you're beautifully dressed. And
Well, do you know that when Walt Disney World hires somebody, they're not hiring employees, they're hiring actors.
Actors,
Correct.
they call them.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so that way they can
Cast
get around.
members.
Yeah, they can get around a lot of stuff, I guess. But the idea is, I can be whoever I want to be. If I want to walk into a showroom, hey, how you doing? I think you need to have this
Jersey
light
back or something. Yeah.
right.
I know where you live. Are you okay? You going to buy this lamp or what?
Yeah.
So it is. So, but the progression of trying to learn more about sales, learn more about people, learn more about acting. I did acting because I thought that could bring out a different element.
Yeah.
And basically, it's just I learned how to have fun at my job.
Right.
Which is what we all want to eventually achieve in life.
Most people
right?
don't have fun what they're doing.
No.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and so that's the reason why I call it more of that career rather than that job, because I do like what I'm doing, and the amount of people that I call on. Oh my gosh! It's like if you ever saw my account list, it's way too many. Okay,
Right. Well, I guess that's a good thing. Then not enough.
Yeah, I mean, not that I take a day off, but I mean, it's like what was it, like a year ago or something like that? It was like the first time I took a vacation in I don't know how long.
So you're in your car then a lot driving every day.
Yes, a lot of windshield time.
A lot of windshield time.
Yeah, 'cause one of the good questions we like to ask when you're a rep, what does the day-to-day look like? Obviously a lot of windshield time, but is there certain days that you set aside for managing accounts, or certain days you set aside for replenishing accounts, or how does the day get set up?
So as the years have gone on, a lot of, I think, the responsibilities have also changed. Like, for instance, when I first started, the big thing was going back into the warehouses and counting, the boxes and, making sure there's inventory. Then is it on the floor and hanging it on the floor and stuff like that. Nowadays, these things called computers or something, I think that's how you pronounce it, are actually,
doing it all
you don't
for
need
you.
You don't even need to go in the back. And even
Right.
if you did and you got the information, they're like going, all right, thank you. And I don't know what to do with your information because I'm going to go by my computer anyway. Okay. So the day-to-day is still trying to plan it, but end of the year, at the end of December, whatever, I was planning 2025.
Okay.
And the first thing I did was I got out 3 months of the calendar, and I marked down, here's where I'm going to be in, this date, this date, this date, this date. By January 15th, it was done. It was garbage. Okay.
You were
because the best you can do is that, you can still try to plan for it, but so many different things come up, and it doesn't work out that way. Like if you get into a car accident, it really screws up your day.
Right.
So
like a flat tire I had yesterday. So, but how does one manage your accounts? Like, so you have an income coming in.
Right.
Like how in this business would you explain, for somebody getting into this type of career?
Right.
How do you manage what's coming in every month, how you want to grow, how you want to scale?
Right.
When is it time to take on a new line? When is a line no longer serving you?
Right.
Or how does that all work?
Well, I find that sometimes when it comes down to the development of the line, okay, I found that there's a lot of people who have a lot of lines to the point where they don't even remember how many lines they have or what they have. So a lot of things that I try to do is I try not to pick up too many and just keep developing it and keep developing it. And as I said, everybody has good product. Well, at some point, it's going to be too much of a crossover, and then which one do you pull out first?
Right.
I find that there's always programs that different manufacturers have that may appeal to you but not for you. That kind of thing. So you got to think ahead of the game and see what will work. You go into a lighting store, they may not be that much interested in table lamps, but you go into a furniture store and they're not that much interested in chandeliers.
True.
So then you're shifting gears. And one of the talents that I think a lot of people have lost was back in the day, before a lot of the, again, we had handwritten purchase orders and stuff like that. Reps used to be able to add columns upside down, which I thought was always the greatest thing because I was like going, now you need more,
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, oh man, I wish you guys would stop relying on computers, because how much inventory you have now.
It's true.
So
do most lines or the lines that you represent, are you the exclusive for that, for your territory or your area?
There may be different other reps in it. Like for instance, you may have a commercial rep versus a residential rep.
Yeah.
And again, as I mentioned before, like the internet rep. So there's so much business still out there. There's plenty to go around. So
one of the reasons I loved starting a podcast was because I just love everybody's stories that they have to tell. And I feel like there's so much to learn and grow from everybody's story. And something that I've always been intrigued by in the industry is love, like you just mentioned, Murray Feist. Like, he's a real person. And I just love hearing the history of so many of these iconic brands that we do use every day. Like Howard Elliott, like what are some of the background stories or your favorite stories of the background
and you represent Howard Elliott, which is a great brand.
Howard Elliott has got a great story behind it.
Is he a real person?
Well, yes-ish. Okay, the way that started was the family was in a big rental.
Like party rental?
Party rentals, tents.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones in the nation, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Okay. And the owner of the company, Brian Burke, decided, went to his dad, said, hey, I want to start my own mirror company. Okay.
Mirrors.
Yeah.
Really?
Mirrors. That's my New Jersey.
Yeah.
Mirrors.
Mira.
Okay.
Mira.
And so there was like, okay, son, you don't know enough, whatever. And, is that always son, father's like, no, I'm going to do this, okay? So he says, okay. The dad's saying, okay, well, we'll name it Elliott Howard, which is both of their middle names. And so Brian goes, no, I want to name it Howard Elliott, okay? So
their middle names. That's
right.
Funny.
So it's their middle names, and so they're off and running. He's importing his own stuff, came out with some beautiful, beautiful stuff. He's got the support from his family and stuff like that. Everything's going great. And then 9/11 came.
Oh, no.
So if you remember back then,
life shut down.
High Point might have been the safest place in the world at that point because there was, guard dogs walking all over, guards on the roofs and stuff like that. But it's like, what a time to open up a new showroom.
Is that when they opened
So
up?
Howard Elliott's
Yeah.
only been around that
Since-
just a short period of time.
Yeah,
20.
something like that.
20 something years.
So, but even with
So it's
even
fairly
with that
new.
line, it's really developed into something strong, and got into different categories.
Totally. A
And
lot of categories, a lot of accessories.
Yeah.
A lot of lighting, even, no? Some
such.
lamps.
They never got it. Brian never really wanted to get into anything that I can plug in.
That's
okay?
true. That's because
So-
of a new set of problems or
Right.
something.
So he goes, I don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. And I'm like going, yeah, well, shipping mirrors is, could be an issue.
Yeah,
and
there
stuff
you
like
go.
No kidding.
But the one of the other lines is the natural light lamps. As I mentioned, I started selling them on the retail side back when I was like 14, and it's a mom and pop. And you want to talk about two lovely people, okay? The wife does a lot of the designing, Harvey does the runs a show, if you will, but they do it together.
Natural
And
light lamps.
the-
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
It definitely is. But
It's
so
it's
what's unique about their product or?
well, one of the things is that if you go online and go to Natural Light, you'll come up with a beer. Okay, so
Okay.
you got to. I always refer to it as the Natural Light. So if
'Cause
anyone
you have to type the in.
yeah, that way it'll come up. And they've got it's table lamps, okay, and they also have art, and all their art is original work, okay, and it is very good, and it's overscaled. It is just beautiful stuff. Now, when it comes to their lamps, the majority of it is domestic, and they ship out of Florida.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, up in the Panhandle.
Is that where they do the manufacturing?
Right. I mean, when you
Wow.
go there, you'll actually see people,
Putting
the things together rather than box in, box out, from containers.
Is that the company that has the color options?
Yes.
So you can customize their colors.
Yes. So you could say to an extent that they are made in the USA.
Wow.
And the nice thing about that is, whereas a lot of other manufacturers bring everything in from China, so you have to put a certain amount to fit into a cube, which will
Right.
fit into a container. We've got lamps that are just very, very tall, but they're.
I know your
but
scale is great.
The scale is great.
Scale is great.
Joanne knows color. She knows design. We use different mediums, and in my opinion, it's the greatest lamp line in the world.
Really?
And their shades are the best. I'm biased, but I still think whenever I present it, I always say this is the greatest lamp line in the world. So
Tell us what other lines do you rep?
I rep Craft Made
Yeah.
lighting and fans, and they've got great designs on ceiling fans, high end ceiling fans, to builders ceiling fans. It's a across the board lighting, chandeliers, indoor lighting, outdoor lighting, and even lighted mirrors. So that's one of their new categories. Concept lighting, which is spelled with a K. And one of the
God, they
because-
gave you some tough ones for the internet, right?
yeah. So they said, yeah, let's make it difficult for all of us. So it's concept, and that gets into nice, streamlined, contemporary
Okay.
LED lighting. And they have won awards after awards after awards on design. That's a really nice company.
Are they U.S. based as well?
No, it's abroad. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to find lighting
Right.
anywhere in the world except for China.
Correct.
So has it always been like that?
No, back in the day, I've been to Spain to a trade show there, which is very cool. There's other trade shows throughout the world, but I remember that this product's from Italy, this product's from Spain, this product's from so and so, but now a lot of it is coming out of China. But they're also bringing in the Chinese companies are bringing in
nicer.
Italian people to do the
Right.
the-
And we had that conversation yesterday here because of a wood floor that we're selecting.
Yeah.
You know, the pricing came in, you know, our rep
Into
came
play.
in, he was like, oh, it's like, that's a good price. I don't like, that's great. And he like looked at the board and it's like, you know, made in the People's Republic of China. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's just, I feel like it is, everything's getting taken over.
Right.
And he's like, well, it doesn't mean that every product is bad. But what we've dealt with since I've been in this business is I truly never had damaged goods.
Right.
And now I feel like half of our day, which even John, who's helped us sometimes,
Right.
like half of our day is monitoring and managing damaged goods.
And that's where the rep comes in.
Right. So how do you deal with like such, I mean, there's a waste factor. There's so much like a cost situation. Like where does that fit in our industry now?
I think, I mean, going back to the natural light lamps, I laugh at that because, again, I see them building it. I see them putting it in the box. I see them doing this and that. And I think that UPS can throw it off their truck and nothing's going to
Right,
happen to it.
right.
I'm really impressed with the way that they have it. You have some other manufacturers who will ship it over to the United States in boxes made for trucking,
Yeah.
but not for UPS.
Correct.
So if they don't redesign their boxes, then you're going to get, that damage. But everyone's trying to limit it because freight is so high right now.
Well, the damaged goods, I feel like too, like what happens to all those damaged goods? I mean, they tell us donate them. You go to like our receiving warehouse. I mean,
Right.
there's just stuff for days that like has no end use. How do like the reps, do you get involved at all in combating where
Well,
all that ends up, or
well-
how does it work?
Well, what I try to do is my job is to make you money,
Right.
okay? Ultimately, we're all trying to sell the same thing.
Right.
And if you make money, I make money. And that's
Right.
the bottom line.
Yeah.
If the
It's
rep
a really
doesn't-
good way of looking at the
When-
business.
When you come from the retail end of it and you see a pile of garbage that's sitting there, and you're waiting for the rep to take care of something, and that's money that's in the bank that's just sitting back
It's
there.
true.
So that's how I look at it. Okay, I embrace the situation, if you will, and so so you go on and keep the ball of damages. I should say the sale of the product going. That part is figured in. Somehow or another, it's figured in because there's no sense in shipping back something that's broken
Yeah.
that's going to
Right.
go back by truck only for them to throw it away in their garbage can.
Correct.
And
Makes
if they can
sense, I
donate
guess.
it, I'm sure somewhere along the line they have insurance policies that say,
Right.
I'm not an accountant, but I'm sure there's a
I
line.
just-
There's
it
a line
just-
there
it's
for some.
such a wild, thing for me to like, just because of how much we deal with in the damaged situation,
Yeah.
especially
No,
like
we
you say.
recognize the value of what reps bring to the table, especially as an interior design firm.
Right.
And it's not just damaged things, and I think that's kind of the minor part of all the business. It's just something you
Right.
have to deal with. But I think the fact what reps bring to the table from a design firm, and helping, with selections and helping with colors and alternatives to items that are sold that we may not know, or the consumer may not know, come in 50 other different colors, shades.
Well,
and-
if you ever go to market, and when you go through every single showroom and you saw every single product,
it's mind-boggling.
you
Yeah, it is
you
mind-boggling.
can't do that. I mean, so when you do go to market and you find out, oh my gosh, check this out. One of the things that Dad and I used to do was we would call on the line, go to the lines that we would typically buy for, but the last mission was always to find something that's new, that's in a small building that can't afford a big showroom.
Oh, that's cool.
And let's
Yeah.
find that little,
Gem.
that little
Yeah.
gem.
I
Yep.
love that.
So, but that's also what the rep can bring to the game, is that something that is not always that that's glaring in the eye, is just something that is so special that you wouldn't have seen them without
Right.
the rep.
Right. I went to High Point this year. It was my first time. I've been to a lot of trade shows for other industries and businesses. You mentioned a few minutes ago that Spain, a trade show. And
Right.
so you've probably, it sounds as though you've been to a number of different trade shows, possibly around the world in different places. Is there any one trade show you think is like the trade show? Is it High Point for the industry?
So I go to the Atlanta show, I go to the High Point show, and I go to the Dallas show twice a year. So right there's the 6 shows.
Right.
6 shows. Each one does something a little bit different than the other one. But if you're an interior designer, I really think however you want to, what scale you want to put yourself on. If you don't go to the High Point show, I think you're missing out on so much.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only the product. All right, great. Everyone has a good product, as I keep mentioning, but they got the classes. They've got other programs. They got
Correct.
so much things that you can offer. They have continuing education credits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So. And not only that, you get to meet your friends again. So
Right,
I mean,
and
every 6 months and such.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I've said this a couple of times on some of the podcasts that after me going, I've said to Tiffany, you need to take some of the clients to this. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a busy firm. We probably any one given time are working on 20 plus houses.
Right.
I mean, we're busy. And there's clients that we have that if we took them for 3 days for High Point, they could do their entire house.
Yeah. But I also think that you give them too much choices, you'll never get the job done.
Sure, I
Well,
agree.
Tiffany's pretty good at homing them in.
Right.
Like we can
You know,
love a
and-
lot of things. I appreciate
But there's
them.
just so much to see. Like we got a client, it's all about chandeliers.
Right.
And this particular client is a touring comedian.
Right.
And her whole basis of her tours is she's known as the chandelier status.
Right.
A chandelier is something that's so beautiful that you look at and never
It stands
changes.
alone
Right.
in a room.
And so forth. And so they're always looking for new chandeliers for the stage and
Right.
for their tour. I said, Tiffany, you got to take them to High Point. They'll like go nuts when they see everything that's there.
Well, one of the funny things, which reminds me of Craft Made, they had bought this one doorbell line, okay? Line of doorbells. Okay.
Unbelievable.
What was actually kind of cool was that made it onto Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Okay?
No way.
And because it was kind of like, if you remember, they had that one skit with chandeliers. You got to have a chandelier.
Yeah.
It'll make your food taste better. You got to have a
that's so
chandelier.
funny.
And so it was a takeoff of that. And so we wrote the one guy who I was talking to about it was always saying, it's like, I can say that there's no other competitor out there that's ever been on Saturday Night Live.
That
with their
is
doorbells.
so
Yep.
funny.
Yeah.
So any of the brands that you currently rep and work with, do they bring on designers for collaborations? Is there any collaborations that are, I feel like that's kind of a newer thing in the last 10 years, this collaboration that so many brands.
Well, are you talking in terms of designers for product or licensees?
I guess a licensing or just bringing,
It seems like a lot of companies are
like even the mirrors,
promoting
for
their
example.
designer. Like we noticed that at High Point this
Right.
year.
So I represented one line with Hillary Farr that was
Okay.
a license, and you want to talk about an ego stretch? Was in order to meet her, you had to sign up in the morning for
To meet and
to
greet.
meet her. So one of the things that she got there early, was working with the owner, and she goes, we're running out of time. I've got to meet the first person. I got to meet Keith Eichenblatt. And I go up to her. I go,
Oh, that's
Hillary,
so funny.
it's only, I'm just another rep. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm here, So I think there's an importance to having a good license, okay? Mm-hmm. As far as it takes you, and it will take you just so far, okay? But it's all about the product.
Correct.
Okay.
Full product. And
Yeah. And so I only wish that more manufacturers would come out with their own designers, because there's a lot of overlap, okay? There's a lot of overlap from manufacturer to manufacturer to manufacturer. I would like to see the manufacturers have their own designers and develop their own. The other thing, and I hope my manufacturers are listening, listen to the reps. We're the ones who are on the front lines. And we're seeing what is going on. They're they run it's their company, so they can run it any way they want to. But I find that they may live in a little bubble,
right?
Okay, they may think differently, this and that and this and that. But not only that, Florida is so different than Nebraska too.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so I mean they're trying to
true.
appeal to everybody, and I keep saying, give me more coastal.
Right.
So.
It's definitely a thing. So we kind of did mention this a little bit before, that we live in this now computer age, the social media world, and you're all about your branding, personal brand. Do these companies kind of guide you at all on how to work with social media, or how to push the brand, or cross collaborate, like through social media in any way? Or
a lot of the manufacturers do have their own social media person, which is good. Okay. There's also a lot of reps out there that don't even know how to use the computer, the social media and stuff like that. And so in my mind, then hire someone that does, because the world is really changing a lot, and it's changing even faster. And the funniest story just happened about a few weeks ago was I was at a vendor show. Okay, so all one company has across the United States bunch of employees, and they're of all ages. Well, one of them was about 24 years old, right? And so I go, I was talking to him and said, hey, let me help you out. Go ahead and give me your card, and and here's mine.
Oh,
so I gave him.
They probably did.
So he goes, oh, we don't have cards. He has his digital one.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, well, I don't know what to do.
You scan a QR code, and it's already in your phone. I had that happen to me the other day too.
So it's like, okay, thanks for making me feel old. I appreciate that. But a lot of the manufacturers, if they're not doing it by themselves, they're hiring people to do it. As far as collaborating, as an independent rep, I do my own, and there's other reps that will go out there. Well, the manufacturer needs to come out with catalogs. The manufacturer needs to come out with this. It's like, I'm in business for myself.
Yeah.
So if I see a need that a printed postcard, which costs nothing, if you will,
right?
You're
printing it.
Then make it. Then just print it up. And to do it is it's just not that difficult.
Right.
So on that note, what advice would you give an individual who would like to move into this industry, starting out?
Get a lot of friends. What's interesting is I don't find too many people coming in from the outside. Usually someone's bringing somebody in.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
And that even when it gets to some of the more popular lines, you're almost always recommended and recommended and recommended.
From the inside.
From the inside.
Yeah.
I know a guy, because I may rep Howard Elliott with this guy here, but he's also repping another line. And so, we're looking for someone in Florida. I know a guy in Florida. I rep with him with another one. So that's how sometimes, our packages do grow. What would I advise them on? Be patient, because success doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But as mentioned before, there's so many facets. There's still a lot of business out there.
There is.
You could still make a good living with this job.
Is it difficult to become a rep for an individual who's because I've heard, and you've said it, that if you're good at what you do and you enjoy what you're doing, which you certainly seem to be, you're going to do well and you're going to make a nice living. And you have your own, basically you're making your own schedule. You're not really reporting to anyone. It's, I think, a nice lifestyle that way as well. But I think it might be difficult for a person to become a rep because, like you said, if you don't know a lot of people.
You got to start from the inside.
Well, a big part of it is there's a certain amount of crazy that you have to add into the recipe, okay? And, if you're not a self-starter,
right.
Oh my gosh! And all the things you hear about kids today, there is no way they're going to be reps.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning where they're saying like school has kind of been set up to take all that free thinking away.
Right.
Like they want, it's kind of breaking down the free thinking and kind of get y'all in a box and get in line and conform.
Right.
So yes, and it's funny that you say that, like there is still so much growth in this industry, which is another reason why I love having the podcast to kind of illuminate it, because in a lot of my own research, it's not one that AI is going to be able to. It's a very personal business.
Right.
It's tactical. There is a lot, and it's been an untapped industry for such a long time.
It's still a mom and pop.
It is, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It really is.
Yeah, I just think that if a new person is coming in,
Mm-hmm.
there's something about them that they have that drive already in them. Okay, am I driven by money? I'm not gonna kid you. I like money, but the thing about it is I like making the sale.
Right.
Okay.
You like the idea.
And
The art of the deal of it. Yeah.
And if you and I worked on something and it's like, Keith, I'm looking for a ceiling fan, okay, and I found the perfect one for you and your customers absolutely love it, you're going to be happy because you satisfied your customer, and I'm going to be happy because you're happy,
right?
Kind of thing. So that's a big part of it.
It's a relationship business,
right?
Too.
Yeah. You're not going to find, and as I said, a lot of it is crazy because you can make whatever you want out of it. Okay, I mean, the like for instance, one of the jokes that was kind of carrying me for a number of years, but I never really picked up on it was, I like to dress up, as you've seen, and stuff like that,
like your personal branding.
But I also drove a Toyota Sienna, which was the most comfortable thing in the world, held everything, but the paint was burning off of it. I had like 300,000 plus miles on it, but it was so reliable. It was this, it was that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, you don't really match your car. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll get it. I wound up getting a new car because it was time anyway. But I didn't really, but I was bulletproof to a lot of people's criticisms.
Right.
Like, oh, you want to buy me a car? Buy me a car. I'll drive that, But, I do my own thing.
I have to say something that for people who've never been to High Point, it's like a mini city of just every furniture, lighting, home accessory you could think of by every single company is there in this one little mini city. My first time going there was this year. And I went around with Tiffany and we met a lot of people. A lot of people that Tiffany knows, and went to a lot of showrooms. And I have to tell you that you're the one person that really stood out when I met you at High Point. This is that your personality was electrifying. You were...
I was on, baby. I was on.
You were, and I said to Tiffany the first time.
And you popped up everywhere. You
well,
were
that's
like
what I
Goldbug.
want. But that's the thing is that when I first met you, I said to Tiffany, I said, I bet you he does really well because he's got a great personality. He's so friendly and just warming and charming. And then like, I don't know, it was like 20 minutes later, we're in another building, which and for people who don't understand, another building, we walked like 2 blocks to another building, went up to the 6th floor, which these buildings are a maze, walked into another showroom, and I said, wait, he has a brother, a twin. And
he dresses the same way too.
It was you. And then like, I forget, I think it was like later in the day, we ran into you at another showroom where you were like holding court with all these different people. And I said to Tiffany, I said, man, he does get around. That's like, he's like really
That's
on
impressive.
it. Well, yeah, and I said, we got to have him on our podcast.
But one of the things that is a challenge.
So for the brands that you represent, I have to say, they're very lucky to have you.
Did you hear that, everyone? Has this been working? Hello?
No, they have to be. They have to be.
Well, I had a sales manager one time and goes to me, he goes, Keith, you did really, really well, this year. Let's put a quota on for next year for, like $600,000 for it. I said, well, that's great. Why don't we make it 700? He goes, you want to do 700? make it 800. I said, I'll tell you what, let's make it a cool $1 million. He goes, really? I said, what part do you think I'm not going to do anyway to strive to do the best that I can?
Right.
You don't need to give me a quota. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You know, and if I meet it, I meet it. I mean, am I the greatest one? There's always someone who's going to be better. You know, and there's always going to be a lot more people. Hopefully, it'll be worse. But you know, people who know me know that I, you know, don't have a life. I just work.
Yeah. So where do you see your future in the industry?
Well,
is there an end game, or is it just keep going?
well, no, there's going to be an end game one day. but part of it that I thought was so interesting, again, well, let's call it growth, okay? And
That's one of my favorite words.
And maybe it's even a better understanding of what we do. Every 10 years, I said, I got to pinch myself to make sure that I'm still alive, okay? So one of the things that I did do was, okay, I mentioned before, I worked at the retail level, okay? So that way, that helped out when I was a rep, so I could understand that when a lighting distributor says, hey, my builder needs their stuff, we can't close, da-da-da-da-da, I get it, okay? A lot of other reps, you know, you'll get it when you hear knock, knock, knock on the back door, that's when you're going to get it, okay? So, you know, so I know that my efforts to make things happen, you know, matter. A lot of people think like, Keith, how big of a garage do you have? Because it sure sounds like you have everything to solve our problems in your garage. Then when I turned, I think it was 50, I said, you know what? I want to try this import business. It seems like it works, right? So I did that. I flew around the world and did this and did that, and I'm already a rep, so it's like I knew a lot of contacts I already make to sell this product to. And that's not an easy job. It's time consuming. It's everything else like that. I hired people, and it just got to the point where that was a bit much. So I never stopped repping.
But you're not afraid to try new things.
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
No. There's I'm 62 years old and still really
raring to go.
Yeah.
Raring to go.
And the other, and also is that I never think that I've learned enough.
No.
I feel the same way.
Have to learn something new every day, they say.
Yeah, but as and just the way that the industry is changing, you know, if I feel that I can stay on top of things and especially ahead of other people in learning where the industry is going, you know, that's going to help me out. Things I do wish for, things I do is that I'd had a little bit more time to get involved in more industry clubs and stuff
too.
Like that. But, you know, we're all trying to work harder.
I figure that'll be my next season. Like right now, my juggle is work and parents and parenting, and building the podcast is my extra. But I would love to.
But
the
how cool is
industry
this?
off. It is so cool.
Yeah.
It's been great having you, and we're so happy to.
So let's wrap this up.
Sure.
We always wrap it up by asking a couple of offbeat questions about design. So I'll ask a question first. Is that from a design perspective, is there a restaurant that comes to mind that you think it's been designed really cool or great or wonderful?
Or it could be lack of design. Could be designing of the food.
If you give me a great steak on a picnic table, I'm all about that. But there is a restaurant that I particularly like going back to over and over again because they have a piano bar there.
I love that.
But it's, can I mention the name?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's called Christner's, which is somehow or another they were connected with Del Frisco's.
Okay.
Sure.
And they know how to. It's all about the service. They've got good
And
management
where is it?
there. It's in Orlando.
What's the name of it?
It's Christner's, Kristners.
Wow.
Yeah.
To try it.
And been there for bachelor parties to birthdays to
hoot.
everything. And there's a level of sophistication that when you go in there, you know, I go in there wearing one of my crazy suits or whatever, and I want to be king tonight because I know that,
you feel special.
I feel special, and I want, so I love that place, and that's where I like going.
I love that. What is your favorite hotel?
I would definitely say my house. Okay.
That's a good one.
You know, one of the things that they said in this, you know, I mean, I've been to the Intercontinental in Paris. Okay. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that I've been all over the world and this and that, and not that I stay in the greatest places either. And there's a really, I think it's in Boca. I remember that when I first met my wife, there's a very opulent.
The Boca Resort.
I bet you that's what it was.
Yeah.
I bet you that's what it was.
They've changed it.
It's called the Boca Raton.
Well, they can change it back then.
Yeah.
They changed that old kind of world.
Yeah.
Now it's just like all white.
Right. Oh, you know, it was great.
It's
that's
still
that's
a
how I
great
remember.
place. It's
But
still historical.
no, it's like, you know, where do you want to go on vacation? I say,
You want to go home?
I want to go. I got a great porch overlooking, you know, our lake. You know, the dogs. To me, that's my.
You're happy.
That's my happy spot. Yeah.
So you like to dress.
Right.
Is there any particular wardrobe accessory that?
Shoes. I love
Yes.
shoes. I love shoes.
That's the best way to wrap up.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. Never enough shoes.
And they're not buckles on your shoes. They're called monks. You know?
Monks?
Yeah.
I didn't
Single
know
monk,
that
double
either.
monk.
I didn't
See
know that. No.
No.
Hey, we all learned something
We all
today.
learned something today. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
You bet. You
Appreciate
bet.
you
Thank you
coming.
so much.
You bet.
It
It
was
was
a
a lot of
pleasure
fun.
to have you.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.